You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
All right, everybody. Welcome to our 2023 year in review, crystal ball spectacular, call it what you will, where we're going to run down all your prognostications, see what you folks had on the docket for the end of this year from a volatility perspective, and then we'll answer the question that everyone has on their brains. Did anyone win our 2023 Vol Prize? Well, let's find out, shall we? The markets are now closed for the year. That is 2023. It sounds insane to say that out loud. This year has just flown by in dramatic fashion. And with 2023 now in the books, where did the VIX index close for the year? Well, VIX cash went out at 1245, off a whopping 0.02 on the day. Now, on the year, it's been a bit of a different story. If you've been paying attention to the vol space or listening to our Volatility Views program throughout the year, you know it's been pretty much a vol annihilation from the jump out there this year. We started the year almost at a 23, a 22.90 when we came into the start of the year, January 3rd. So obviously selling off quite a bit on the year. We ended up net down 10, almost 10 and a half handles, 10.45. Now cover your ears, all of you percent of percent haters out there. I'm looking at you, Mr. Meatball, because we are off nearly 46% on the year for VIX. I know, sounds insane. The high for the year, listeners, we broke into the 30 handle ever so briefly. You can probably guess when it came, listeners. It came during the height of the contagion fears back in mid-March, March 13th to be precise. The high came then of 30.81. The low for the year, listeners, came, you can probably guess this one as well, a little bit more recent in the rearview mirror. For this one, the low came at 11.81 on December 12th, so right in the teeth of that seasonality that we usually expect for VIX around that time of year. So a wild year on the VIX front. Let's get to what you folks had in store. This time last year, we asked you our annual VIX sentiment poll. Had you folks break out your crystal balls to see what VIX would have in store for us at the close of this year. We gave you 4 choices this time last year. Again, indicative of where VIX is whenever we post this poll, because last year's poll, we gave you 4 choices. Explosive, so north of 26. Juicy, 21 to 25.99. Mildly frothy, 16 to 20.99. Or, as we termed it last year, snooze fest, below 16. I think you can clearly see what the actual winning answer was. But what did you folks have on the brain this time a year ago? Were you right on the money? Let's find out. Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. Winning our poll this time a year ago was mildly frothy, 16 to effectively 21, with nearly 34% of you coming in at that level, 33.9% to be precise. So no joy for our aggregate poll this time last year. Coming in at number 2, we had a bit of a fight for the number 2 spot. Juicy, so 21 to about 26, ended up taking it with exactly 25% of the vote. And then right behind it, we had Explosive. So a fair number of you were pricing in a fair amount of vol this time a year ago. Explosive, so north of 26, 24.2%. Again, no bueno there either. The actual winner, what we termed Snooze Fest this time last year, below 16. That, of course, was the real-life winner, and unfortunately only 16.9% of you chose that. So that was the loser in our crystal ball poll this time last year, coming in a distant fourth. So unfortunately, in aggregate, our audience, usually fairly precise, this year, not so much. So in aggregate, our audience, a big goose egg this time last year. But you all know, you're all waiting to see if you won our Vol Prize for 2023. What is our Vol Prize? Well, along with our end-of-year poll, we always have folks write in with their specific guesses, their specific approximations for where they think VIX Cash will close at the end of the year. We've heard all the arguments. Oh, it's just reflecting seasonality. You should do something else. A high, low, open, close, average, all these things. And we've tried some of those. In fact, we had a bonus question this year. What will the highest close be for VIX in 2023? The problem is most people have a hard time wrapping their heads around those other measures. At the end of the day, where will VIX go out at the end of the year? A fairly straightforward metric that a lot of people can wrap their heads around. You'll see it a little bit when we get to our 2024 prediction. A lot of people are fighting away for the Vol Prize for next year, so stay tuned for that. But going through our results for a lot of you right now, and of course we have people chime in like our regular guest on VolViews, Mr. Jim Carroll, a.k.a. VIXologist, chiming in saying we should have a bonus question. What will be the highest close for VIX in 2023? So we played along with that. We let you guess that as well if you liked. And our producers have been diligently crunching the numbers ever since the close of the market today, listeners. Again, 12:45 is the actual VIX Cash close for the year. In our crystal ball contest every week, we typically like our winners to come in within a tenth of a point. It's a very demanding margin of victory. We got a lot of feedback from the listeners, especially in the height of the pandemic. VIX whipping around north of 30. You should expand the goalposts. The Meatball, the Rock Lobster, everybody, all of our frequent guests were all complaining it was too demanding of a margin of victory. But I said, nay, we will continue to be demanding. And we kept it within a tenth of a point. So I'm very proud of that fact. That said, guessing for a whole year is very challenging. So we like you to come within a tenth of a point, but we do have a little bit of wiggle room on that. If someone's pretty close, they could still end up winning our Vol Prize. Now you might say, what the heck is the Vol Prize? And the answer is it changes every year, listeners. If you're familiar with our Options Insider Pro offering, we do have giveaways there for our Pro members, which are our Pro trading crates. Those are exclusive to our Options Insider Pro members. They contain a lot of great goodies from our vault. And let me tell you, our vault is, even though you've been doing the Pro now for coming up on 3 years, our vault is still overflowing with goodies from the history, the primordial ooze of the options market. Some awesome items in there. I know we recently gave away to one lucky Pro member a stainless steel travel coffee mug from the Board of Trade. Now, not just the Board of Trade, which doesn't exist anymore, but from when they went public, their IPO, it had their ticker, BOT, on it. Untouched, unused, sealed BOT travel coffee mug. That thing's worth a ton. We gave it to one of our lucky winners. We have all kinds of items like that in our vault. And for our Vol Prize, we tend to create a custom crate that is geared, as you might expect, around volatility. So, of course, we've had many great authors on the show over the years in the vol space, your Ewan Sinclairs, your Russell Rhodes, even the Meatball and a bunch of others. So we have great educational offerings from them that we tend to include in our Vol Prize, some other exclusive gear, all sorts of stuff from the history of the world of volatility, some cool stuff from the days of yore from VIX. So all sorts of fun stuff going in our custom Vol Prize for this year. But the question remains, did anyone win it, listeners? Looking year, we had a lot of you folks chiming in, playing the game, including some winners in the past, like our buddy Mr. Neil Wales. He came in at 1865, so unfortunately no joy for you there this year, Neil. Your high for the year, 36.95. That's a little bit better, but still no winner chicken dinner for you. A lot of other people coming in. A lot of people guessing highest closes like J4340 at nearly a 40, 39.95. That's a pretty robust close. Didn't quite hit it. Your year end was 1661, so also no joy for you there as well. Again, we were all over the place, listeners. 20 halves, nearly 30s. Before I reveal if any listeners won, let's go through our network players, our co-hosts, our guests here on the network for the year. See if any of them came within our margin of victory, listener. Let's start with our buddy, Mr. Vixologist, because he suggested an additional question. He was at 2782 for the close for the year, so no joy there. Let's go out to the land of Options Boot Camp. My co-host there, Mr. Dan Passarelli from Market Taker Mentoring. He was at a 2249 for the year, so no joy there. The Rock Lobster, 1688, so he was a little bit closer. Still no joy for him, but he was at least within the 5 handles. That's more than a lot of the rest of the people can say. Our buddy, Mr. Matt from Oratz, a.k.a. the Oracle of New Hampshire, a.k.a. the Otto Father, the creator of that rogue AI. He was at an 18.5, so no joy for him either. Mr. Rhodes, he was surprisingly close. The once and future and now present Dr. Vix, surprisingly close to the Rock Lobster, I should say. Not surprisingly close to the answer. The Rock Lobster was at 1688, and Mr. Rhodes is at a 1697. I'm wondering if they came on the same show to make their predictions together. The Meatball doing his palindromic nonsense. Actually, he did it wrong. He did it should have been 1881 if he wanted to do that. Instead, he did an 1818. No joy for him. Unfortunately, listeners, no joy for myself either. I was at a 2135, so I also had a little bit of extra juice, shall we say, in my prediction. Looks like the closest of all of our network hosts and guests on the year was at a Carly Garner. I think she was at about a 13 even. I need my producers to go check that to make sure. I have her written 13 ... here. But if she was at a 13 even, she was at least almost within half a point. So that at least is respectable for a 1 year prognostication. We also had guests for the VIX average for the year. A lot of people suggested that. Mr. Once and Future Dr. VIX was at a 19.5. The Meatball at 2112 and me at a 2067. I haven't crunched the numbers for that yet, but I can look at that chart and tell you none of those are right. So I don't have the exact right answer, but it's not any of those out there as well. And spoiler alert, listeners, unfortunately, after our producers have crunched all of our listener suggestions, listener guesses for this year, we have no listeners even within a half a point. So unfortunately, did anyone win our Vol prize for the year of 2023? The answer is no, and man, we were looking forward to sending something out. So guess what? That means our 2024 Vol prize is going to be even cooler. So get your name in the hat right now. Speaking of our 2024 Vol prize, our poll is now live for your predictions for this time next year. This is how you get your name in the hat to potentially win the coveted 2024 Vol Prize. We start things off with a fun little Twitter poll. Allow everybody to play. I just went live a little while ago, and man, you folks are already chiming in. Well over 1,000 of you already voting in the early going here. We still have about a day left to go on this poll. Again, this poll always interesting because it's indicative of where Vol is hanging out whenever we ask this question. You recall what the levels were when I gave you our 2023 Vol poll. Coming into this year, the end of this year, our Vol poll very different. Gave you 4 ranges as always right here, so where it was when we posted it, between 12 and 16. Higher, so between 16 and 20. Spicy, as we term it, so north of 20, or boring, below 12, and I will stand behind that. Below 12 VIX is pretty darn boring to me. And right now, like I said, with well over 1,000 of you already voting in the early offing here, it's a tight race. Between 12 and 16 was taking it, listeners, but in the last few hours, we've had an upswing of votes for higher. So that is taking it right now. 36.3% of you choosing higher between 16 and 20, followed by number 2 here. So between 12 and 16, aka where VIX is right now, 30.1% for that. Number 3 is boring. A decent chunk of you predicting a snooze fest for an election. Remember, it's an election year next year. So a good chunk of you predicting by the end of December, all that ball's gone. Below 12, 19.5%. And bringing up the rear, it's a spicy meatball. North of 20, 14.1% of you choosing that. Again, interesting compared to this time last year where our spicy explosive range was north of 26. crazy year that it has been in vol. If you want to play along on that poll, get in there. A whole bunch of you already have. You got about 24 hours left to make your voice heard. But even more important, listeners, if you want to get your name in the hat to potentially win a fantabulous 2024 Vol Prize, you got to write in with your very specific VIX predictions. Going to have some decimal points in there. People are freaking out. What do you mean decimal points? But yes, we want decimal points. So you are 18.05, whatever floats your boat for VIX this time next year. 36.23, whatever it is. If you're within a tenth of a point, you too can win a fantabulous prize. Again, it's a bit of a moving target for the annual Vol Prize. We make things a little bit easier for you folks. And man, I'm looking at them right now, listeners. Those picks are all over the place, which we like to see. It's what makes a contest at the end of the day. We also had folks writing in like Mr. Jim Carroll. He wanted a bonus question. What will be the peak for VIX? What will be the high for VIX in 2024? He did his own poll, and he gave you 4 choices between 25 and 30, between 30 and 35, between 35 and 40, or north of 40. And 40.3% of you in his poll chose north of 40. So, weird. On our aggregate poll, a fair number of you are pricing in that most of that juice will have been wrung out by the end of the year. But that said, somewhere along the way, we're going to have a spike north of 40. At least 40% of you think that. So, again, it is an election year, so a lot could happen in the interim. We've all seen that in the past. But intriguing stuff. Get over there at Options if you're not following us now. It is pinned. It will be very easy to find it. This poll will run for about another day. Tell you what, we'll be charitable. It is the holiday weekend after all, so we'll let you guys make votes on this poll sometime into early next week. How about that? We'll be nice. Because after all, it is a one-year poll. You need some time to mull. You need some time for the New Year's Eve champagne to wear off. I get it. Never let it be said that we're not caring and kind and compassionate individuals here. But get your vote in before the end of next week if you too want to win fabulous prizes. And that's going to do it for our 2023 Vol Prize extravaganza. A crazy year. And if these poll results are to be believed, we're shaping up for another bonkers year in the Vol space. I hope you enjoyed Volatility Views. Hope you enjoyed all the Vol content, indeed all the content coming to you on the network last year. It was the biggest year by far in our network history, and we're looking forward to a great 2024, and we hope you are too.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.